Yo, when I spit bars in a raid, man, I go hard like Santan.
Yo, people, welcome back to another episode of the New Spurs Order pod. I am on hosting duties this week. It's Tapping Tobes here. I'm joined by Yao, aka Scott Hall. I'm joined by Booker T, aka Tops, aka Martin Luther King. Certain man pressuring me because they said they got to go for a spin class at 7 p.m., but I ain't going to name names. You know who you are, right? You know who you are. How are you guys doing?
Good, man. Just, bruv, I'm not going to lie to you, bro. The next few weeks could be tense, innit? So let me be guided.
Mate, the name of the pod is called Winter Has Come for a reason, because winter is really here. If you watch Game of Thrones, you know what happened when winter came, yeah? And it came hard, and I'm not going to pause there, yeah? So, cool. I ain't pausing there. This ain't cop and fracas where I'm going to be pausing. This ain't cop and fracas where I'm going to be pausing every single second. And yes, that's a shot at Fahy and all the rest of them pussios over there. Pause every damn second. You know who you are. You know.
No, but they have to, because they got Marco in their camp. That's an automatic.
Man, what do they expect? that Fahy brother as well. Every single time I see him on socials, he's at some sort of meat show, man. He's the one that has the problem with the show.
It's dangerous. Very dangerous.
Honestly, he loves a meat show. He loves a meat show. Honestly, he loves a meat show. But listen, let's not get sidetracked, man. It's funny because I was actually listening to their pod today, and I messaged Fahy, and they were talking about, like, I think they mentioned how they were talking about hair on one pod, and I opened my Instagram maybe like an hour ago, and I see Owen, aka X-Pac, has started like a hair transplant Instagram journey, and I said, "Whoa. You think you know someone," and then it's just like, yo, like, what the hell? What the hell, man?
Oh, no, I don't think he got into it on the last pod, but yeah, he did tell me about it, and I was like, listen, hey, the job that was done, incredible, because I wouldn't have known. Hey, Tobias, I'm not gonna lie, it's not gonna work for you. So anything,
I don't need it. Take that out right now, brother.
Take that out right now, brother.
That's all that matters. I don't
just rock the Stone Cold and let's go with it, fam. I'm looking like a young Kevin Hart.
All right, let's get back on football, but let's get back on football, guys. I mean, it's the good news is there's no more international break until March. The bad news is we still have a lot of our key players missing for the foreseeable future. And we've got a really, really tough run of fixtures coming up. Obviously, we'll preview the Aston Villa game for those who are listening. We're going to preview the Aston Villa game towards the end of this, because that's the most immediate fixture that's coming up in our schedule. But I thought we'd take some time to actually talk about a lot of the bits and bobs that are actually going to come up as a frequent talking point over the next couple of weeks. One is our obvious fixture running at this point in time, right, heading up into Christmas, because we have Aston Villa at home, then we have Man City away, then we have West Ham at home, then we have Newcastle at home, right? And it feels as if we went through a period where we play at the start of the season, we'd play like a team in probably like the mid-table or lower half, and then we play a big six team, then a team in mid-table lower half, then a big six team. It feels like now we're playing the teams. We're going to start playing a lot of the teams around, you know, the 6th to 10th or 11th spot positions. It feels like we're going to start playing some of those teams over the next couple of weeks, man. And I wanted to get your general thoughts. Like, where's your head at in terms of the run that we've got coming up? I'll start with you, Yao.
I think it's quite simple. You just have to do your job. I know that we've got like injuries and stuff like that, but like, I think I said this on the main pod not too long ago. The long and short of it is, regardless of whether we got injuries, we got loads of players out, and that will be the excuse if there is a defeat or a loss or, you know, a bad performance and stuff like that. But the long and short of it is, you just got to go and do what you need to do. You know, like, we could be talking about potentially on paper, you know, a bunch of losses and draws over the next 5 games. Or we could be talking about, hey, them man managed to grind out a win or 2, you know, or even 3 if they were lucky. You know what I'm saying? So, like, we don't know how it's going to play out till it plays out. The long and short of it is, these are professional players. They've got a professional job to do, and we need them to deliver. That's pretty much it. The away games are the away games. You know, I guess on paper you shouldn't really be looking at away games as guaranteed victories, but the home games that we do have, and the next 4, we've got 3 of those being at home. We have to get results. It's not up for debate. It's not. Up for
I'm with you, bro. Tops, I know you're reacting over there. In agreement with Yao. What are you saying?
Yeah, it's go time. It's go time. You know, we had this really positive start. Everyone was on cloud 9 with regards to how we've performed with a lot of the players that we've had available, and whilst admittedly, you know, we've had some sort of big games, but this is the meat of the Premier League season as we come into as we come into the sort of second third of the season, or the middle third of the season. This is where we really get into the nitty gritty of it, and we've been very fortunate. I feel like up to this point, we've deserved actually to be where we are, and we've amassed a decent number in 26 points, being 4th or 5th in the league at the moment. But this is go time. This is go time, and unfortunately, this is the nature of the league as well. You could have a period of time where you play against really solid teams, or really what we would call inferior teams. You get decent results, you pick up points, and there's going to be runs like this where you are going to be playing what we call the probably the better teams in the Premier League. So this is where, one, I feel it's important that whatever is left of the squad has to stand up. Every single man as a squad member has to be pivotal in how we do go on these next 4 games. But also, I think it's now, I wouldn't say it's a negative eye, but you have to have a real look at how Ange manages this team, how he manages personnel, how he looks to adapt, if not to adapt his philosophy and his style, to be able to go into these games with the suspensions and the injuries and the current personnel that we have. It's go time. Let's go.
I think Tobias is buffering. He's completely frozen. Oh my God. You can't even make this stuff up. Hey, seeing as Tobias is completely like excommunicado, yeah, like I might as well. Oh, he's back. He's back.
I don't know what I don't know what the hell happened there, but no, I was listening to what you were saying, man, and I agree. I fully agree. I think we're gonna see probably, I don't want to say a different side to Ange, because I do think he deserves a lot of credit for what he's done for Spurs, and I do think it's not like he's had it go entirely his way since he's been here, right? But I do think we're gonna have to see a different side to Ange over the next couple of weeks. To your point, like, how do you deal with this kind of adversity? Because we've had adversity, right? We've had adversity. We've had Harry Kane leave us literally days before the season starts, right? We've had players not coming in at a quick enough time, etc., etc. Only one signing made between Harry Kane leaving Spurs and the deadline day. People forgetting that we already had injuries to contend with. It's just because they weren't like regular starters. But Solomon out for 3 months, Perisic out for the entire season, amongst a couple other players who weren't even fit at that point in time. So I don't think it's been like, I think he's been fortunate up until this point where like he's been able to keep his key players intact until recently, but I don't think he's had it go all his way. However, I do think now we need to see how he can make this team or this squad, sorry, stretch between now and when the big hitters come back. And I think one of the situations where we'll see what he's looking to do and whether it's the right or wrong move is with the number 10 position, man. Let's talk on the number 10 position, because I mean, against Wolves last time out, he played Pape Matar Sarr in that role. He looked like he was playing in that role. He looked a bit lost. You're looking at the team now without James Maddison. There is a chasm of creativity just gone, and you're just thinking, with the setup that we play, there has to be someone who's a bit more offensive minded in that position. And I wrote down the list as well that I sent to you guys before the pod, and I'm just looking at candidates that can play in that role so we can discuss. You've got the one who played there when Maddison wasn't on the pitch in pre-season, which was Lo Celso, who he decided to keep. You've got Kulusevski, who can play there. He put Kulusevski there when we were chasing the game against Sheffield United. Kulu scored. You've got Donley, who's ripping it up for the under 23s, ripping it up to shreds. And then you've also got the emergence, obviously, or the re-emergence of Bentancur from injury, who can also do a job in an advanced position as well. So let's talk, man. Where are you guys at in terms of how Ange puts together our midfield, right? And so that question is twofold. Who would you pick in the 10, and what should the midfield composition look like over this period? I'll start with you, Tops. You're on mute.
Sorry. In terms of our options, we're limited. We just are, just because the nature of Maddison's injury, and obviously going into this game, Basuma being suspended. We've got a what I would say is near on recovering or fully recovered Bentancur, who's coming back from a long layoff, out of form and not really playing. Lo Celso, Skip, Højbjerg, and then you're left with someone who's been kind of integral to the team in Sarr. So obviously, I think Sarr will play the role that he has been playing for us this season, where he kind of operates in that right-hand channel as like a running sort of 8. We know what his qualities are. He's very good at hassling. He covers a lot of space. He does a lot of the off-the-ball work well, and he's actually building a nice relationship with Porro and Kulusevski on that, right? So I can't envisage it will change too much. When I'm thinking about the other two midfield positions, I think it's a bit of a difficult one. I first of all, I wasn't like super happy that Bentancur was actually called up for Uruguay. But even though he was called up, having looked at the game and seen some of the highlights that have come from it, I was actually really happy. And like I mentioned in the group, I felt like it was the right sort of situation to put him in, playing him in that role, just in front of the defense, or what we would call the 6. It looked like he got a lot of touches on the ball, and he was very active in that game. And I think that's a positive thing for him, just probably for his confidence, because from what apparently they're saying in the Spurs camp is that he's been saying that he's been ready to go for weeks, maybe even a month or so. But I still feel that from that number 6 role, whilst I feel his ability to play as a press-resistant, high-volume passer, which I think he's probably capable of doing, I still feel it's too early in his sort of trajectory of his recovery. And I also still feel as well that there's a massive defensive component that's required, which really involves you putting yourself about. And I really wouldn't want to have him get himself, the ACL injuries is one of the biggest injuries it has the biggest incidence of re-injury. So the last thing I'd want him to do, having even seen some of the challenges that he did go into in the Uruguay-Bolivia game, it did look that there is still a little bit of doubt on that side of his game. And honestly, I really wouldn't want to throw him into that. So in my opinion, that only really leaves us Højbjerg or Skip. I feel like Skip hasn't really had the running of it this season. Whilst I still feel he has some qualities, I feel that right now Højbjerg is the one that will probably is best placed at the moment to play in that 6. And if that is Højbjerg that's going to play, then in my opinion, that only really leaves Lo Celso to play in that number 10. And quickly, I'm not super moved about Lo Celso. I'm not super moved about him. I feel in terms of stylistically, he's probably the closest person in terms of his ability. Well, not ability, but also like the way he plays and the areas he picks up to Maddison. I don't think he's as active as Maddison. I don't think his passing is as incisive and progressive as Maddison. But I still do feel he has some qualities. He receives the ball in progressive areas. Although he's very one-footed, he can operate in a final third area and in an incisive way. And if you look at his I know it's not really it's not an equal measurement to look at it, but if you look at his numbers, and it's just from a statistical perspective, last season when he was on loan, he was up He was receiving the ball in really good areas. He was progressing the ball in really good areas. He was creating lots of chances, and he was even popping up with lots of different assists. So in terms of stylistically, and I think what is probably the most natural, where we're going to have lots of different circles and squares, or however you want to put it, I think most probably for me to start the game, the most balanced midfield would be to have Bentancur as our deepest line midfield player. Then I'd have Sarr as our running eight, and as the advanced eight or like sort of low 10, I would go with Lo Celso.
I just think with this as well. So that's the midfield you want to go with for Aston Villa. Fair enough. We'll get on Aston Villa in a second, but I think I want you to sort of speak a bit more broadly, right? Like, and let's talk on suitability for the roles, because obviously Tops has spoken about Lo Celso in the number 10 role, but in your eyes, do you feel like there's a world where Ange, because I think you mentioned this on the previous pod as well, you and Tops in the previous, is there a world where Ange can just move Kulusevski as the interior for a couple of weeks, put Brennan Johnson on the right, or play Brian Hill on the left or something like that? Like, there's got to be other options. Like, there's got to be other options, surely.
He could easily use Kulu in that position, but then we've got quite a number of injuries. It's actually quite, when you actually deep it, it's extensive. Yeah, you move Kulu into the middle of the pitch, who goes out there? Who takes his spot? Your boy broke his hip, doing his stupid dance. Yeah, like so who goes out there? Just human me, and then I can continue my point.
Johnson goes out on the right. Brian Hill goes out on the left. Listen, I'm not saying Lo Celso shouldn't play. I'm just giving options, possible options that Ange
all right.
can.
So good shout in terms of Brian Hill going on the left, natural left footer. Johnson going on the right, natural right footer. These are good shouts. Yeah, and to be fair, you can't really rule them out to not work. But when you're looking at the midfield dynamic, as good as interesting as it would be to have Kulu in the 10 position, truth be told is, especially the way he's played this season, and I don't think he's played poorly this season, but the way he's played this season, I'm a bit skeptical of the playmaking element of his game. Like he's been in some very quality positions, and he's either given off a tame shot, or he hasn't had that nous to play a very cute pass. I mean, I think out of all the games that I can remember off the top of my head, the game against Wolves is the first time I saw him do like a reverse ball into like Porro's run for the cutback. Like I know people would say, oh yeah, he did it against Liverpool, but Liverpool had 9 men and he didn't do it to like the last minute of the game. At least against Wolves, it was like early in the game. So yes, it would be interesting to have Kulu at the 10, Brian Hill at the left-hand side, Johnson on the right-hand side. Johnson's had a decent start to his career at Spurs. It would be interesting, but I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm siding with Tots on this in terms of like most balance. And I don't particularly think Lo Celso's got anything to his game anymore. Yeah, but what we saw in pre-season is he will attempt those types of balls that you expect from a number 10. Yeah, where we can't actually say as Spurs fans that we'll get that same. Yeah, he will attempt it. Like, look, I wasn't ranting and raving to the ceilings from what I saw in pre-season, but if you go back and check pre-season, there was a lot of times he put Richarlison through, and Richarlison did well to score those goals. Yeah, so like we can't act like we can't be biased on the basis of aesthetically we don't like him, and say that he can't, try and attempt stuff. He definitely can, but the problem is the intensity of the Premier League, the teams that we're coming up against, especially now, and how he started the season leaves us with like absolutely no belief that anything good can come of this. That doesn't mean that it can't, but I'm saying it doesn't leave us with much belief. The problem is, I have a strong belief that as much as I agree with Tops in terms of what I think Ang should do, I have a frightening belief that it's going to be Højbjerg, Sarr, and Lo Celso. And the only person I fear for in that midfield is Sarr. Because why should he be sandwiched between an idiot and a super idiot? Like, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, he has to suffer like this.
it's gonna have to. That is probably gonna be against Aston Villa, because when you look at the absences as well, Basuma's suspended for the next game, right? So he can't play. Maddison, we've spoken about his injury. Benton Core, he played 86 minutes just a couple of days back,
which is quality.
And
We needed
which
that.
was good, which was good. But Ange isn't gonna start him, especially in a game like this where you have Aston Villa who Aston Villa are one of the stronger teams in the Prem right now when it comes to midfield superiority. I think even when they're playing defensive football, as soon as you get the ball into specific zones, they don't really let you breathe, right? And I feel like it might be a difficult game to start Benton Corin from the off. But I was on this whole player welfare thing, and I still am to a certain extent. But listen, that being said, if I did see Benton Court on the starting lineup on Sunday, whenever the game is,
Sunday,
I'd be happy. I'm not gonna lie, I'd be happy.
Listen, we can't play against Aston Villa. No, we can't play against Aston Villa with Højbjerg. I'm sorry, the way they're pressed, like that guy, he's already drowning. Yeah, he's. Listen, Toby, I don't care. This is one of the top 10 worst signings in Spurs history. Yeah, this Højbjerg is he's a fraud, an absolute fraud of a player. Yeah, I can't believe that we're back here again. Him and Dyer. Listen to me and listen to me good. I'm losing it. I'm losing it again. Yeah, because I've had to say these names. Him and Dyer, the day they leave, I promise everyone on this pod, the day they leave, I will have a bottle of Hennessy on this pod. Yeah, right. Bruv, I might even smack the whole thing. Yeah, because that there's only going to be one reason to be waived. It's because these absolute viruses have left my club. Nonsense, and we're gonna have them in the starting lineup for at least the next 5 games. Nah, man, absolutely.
You know what? Just to bring it back to the Celso, like. Despite my anger, despite my disgust at just the player that he's been for Tottenham, the one thing I feel like I think is fair to maintain, right? And it's probably again back to the point we made on we're gonna see what Ange is made of, is sticking to your principles, right? Because Ange, for whatever reason, maybe the club were putting pressure on him, I don't know, but for whatever reason, he made a beeline for Lo Celso. He said, I want you to be part of this project for this upcoming season, right? We didn't entertain any offers for Lo Celso, so we kept him. In pre-season, when Maddison was not playing, he would play Lo Celso. When Maddison was on the pitch and he subbed him off, Lo Celso would come on to play these positions. So I think we're now at a point where it's like, it doesn't really matter what I think about Lo Celso. It doesn't really matter what anyone thinks about Lo Celso. Ultimately, he has to play. Exactly. Ultimately, Ange has brought him in for this exact moment, or he's kept him for this exact moment where Maddison is not available, or Maddison needs to come off, Lo Celso needs to come in. So as much as I hate it, and as much as most most Spurs fans will hate it, he probably has to play right now, or at the very least give him an opportunity to play. And if it doesn't work, then you find a different solution.
You know, at this point,
the problem with it is I want to get this one. The problem with it is he has to have a few games. Like we can't expect as much as like people might have a problem.
I'm with you. I'm actually with you.
He actually has to have a few games to get like the running, the rhythm in. Like, and that's the problem. Like people might expect him to, hit the ceiling immediately against Aston Villa. By all means, that would be great. It'll be amazing if he has an absolute blinder of a game against Aston Villa and we win. Yeah, but the truth be told is we can't expect that. He might not get into the running of it till West Ham or Newcastle even. So, a lot of these players are coming not necessarily out of the cold, but they've had minutes. But the thing that saved us, funnily enough, especially with all the injuries that we've had, is the international break, because Lo Celso played a lot of time. Like he got good minutes for Argentina, and the same with Bentancur for Uruguay. So, it's not like they're coming off international break, with tired legs. These are players that have been playing.
No, agreed. Like I had a bit of an interest in that game just because of himself and Romero, and played about 70 something minutes. And I thought, this is the kind of moment that, yeah, he has to step up. It's go time for him. The opportunity is arisen for him now. Unfortunately, Madison's come out and he hasn't had as much game time. Maybe fitness and injury issues have come up. But really, this is his moment to kind of show the kind of player that we think he has the ability to be. He hasn't shown it, and this will be his first start pretty much since Nuno, from what I understand. So it will be very interesting to see how he's received, especially at home. But I think he will have it in him, but he's going to have a hell of a day. It's going to be a rough day because that Villa midfield is going to give him, they're going to give him some chops.
We'll talk. We'll get back onto the midfield and we'll get back onto Aston Villa. But I guess because we've spoken about the number 10 situation, spoken on Kudus, spoken on the Celso. Just a word though before we move on to the defense. Any word on Donley? Like, where are your heads at with regards to and using Donley as a potential option in this run of fixtures, right? Because even if you do have Lo Celso, games are going to be coming thick and fast. Some players might not be able to play every game. We know Lo Celso is injury prone, so there's a high chance. Let's be real. There's a high chance that this guy can pick up a knock. If he picks up a knock, do you consider Donley as someone who could potentially get a run out?
Yeah, I personally I do. I think from our, if I'm talking about someone who really does keep an eye on the under 23s and a lot of the development guys, he's probably the next up outside of Divine. He's kind of a forward who's kind of been playing in sort of a 10 role for the under 23s, and he's just been prolific. He's just been prolific with goals and assists. He's definitely got an eye for a pass. For me, if I'm liking his profile, I would actually liken it not so much as as a pure 10, but more so like a dynamic sort of midfielder who can operate well in like the forward areas. So I would actually liken his, and I think I can liken his style to someone like Kevin De Bruyne, like loosely, in just the way it's like the areas he picks up and how he finds his passes. At this point, the squad is so bare. It's so bare, and obviously we knew the situation that we were going into. But I just think there's no harm in giving some of these younger players a chance. I've always kind of been keen on giving these younger players a chance in moments when there's less chaos, where they can be eased in. So this is why I kind of feel the notion of actually bringing in people like Dorrington and Phillips is not really that like a feeling that I have that's positive, just because the step up to first team football is massive anyway. We always know that it's good to get young players in the first team just because they need to be in the environment first, just to be able to see what it's like to behave like a first team player, to be in first team environment, to train, to go on the coaches, to warm up. But the second step is then sort of slowly integrating them, and you're more likely to make a mistake and to have your confidence knocked if you're playing in a defensive position, especially where goals are, at an ease in the Premier League. Whereas if you're going on to maybe affect the game as an attacker, then the pressure is also massively reduced in what you can do and what you can actually give, which is why I also believe players like Velis has been given minutes that they've been given. So I do feel if the opportunity arises for Lo Celso, for Donley, and we do look short in that area, I actually feel he is a player that we can probably look to. I still also don't feel that Kulusevski. There's lots of reasons why I don't think Kulusevski will ever be moved into the 10, but that can be discussed on another day. But I feel more likely, if we're looking for more natural fit for that position, it has to be Donley.
Fair. I feel like he should be considered as well. And you know what? I don't think I get your point on the pressure of having to come into stepping into a position defensively versus offense, right? But I also feel like Spurs are despite the injuries, despite the despite the mud, the significant mud that we are covered in right now, Spurs are still on 26 points from 12 games. We're still in the top four. We still have a reasonable cushion over some of the teams behind us, right? Excluding Aston Villa, obviously. And even if we do drop points now, I don't think we're going to be in a position come the new year when players are back that's so insurmountable for us to sort of claw back. So I actually feel like, and on top of that, I feel like fan atmosphere towards the team is probably in the best position it's been in years. Right? So
Agreed.
I actually think it's an environment now where he can call upon some of these young players, and Spurs fans will be like, yeah, go on, you know what? Why not? Why not go for it? Because it's like, if the alternative, to Yao's point, are scrubs that have been messes for Spurs over years, like Dyer, even Højbjerg now, if you want to put that into the equation, all of these men.
No, put it there. Don't say it like please.
The truth. Spurs, Angie's already having to rely on poor players now. He is. That's just the reality. So if you're going to have to rely on poor players now, you may as well chuck some kids in there, right? And
but then Tobes, you see,
those who are listening to this pod and want to try and take that in a different way, you're a sicko, yeah? You're a real sicko.
But then Tobes, this is the debate though, you see. Like the way I see it is as well, is that like you have an option between an experienced pro who is not that positive, who's not going to contribute massively, or you have a completely green, fresh young player.
Yeah.
If if an experienced pro who's been playing in the league and has a bad game, would you rather? It's like a risk reward, isn't it? Would you rather the flack be given to the ex-pro who's gonna just take it on the chin? He's gonna come to training, he'll get over it, or would you risk ruining or maybe possibly damaging the confidence of a young pro who maybe hasn't had the best game if he's been flung in? This is sometimes what I've also kind of feel. There has to be like a risk reward. What are you gaining from putting this person in if it means that it could possibly be? I mean, we want it to be positive, but what if it was to be negative?
Okay, so let me actually like land on that point, because that's a very good point that you brought up, and it made me think. Probably the last time, maybe there was another time before this, but the last time I remember off the top of my head that something similar to that happened was the Jose Mourinho season. I think the first season when he played Tanganga. I can't remember who got injured, but he played Tanganga against Liverpool. Tanganga had a good game. You know, I'm not going to say he had a great game. He had a good game. I think we lost that game 2-1 or 1-0. I think it's the game where Lo Celso missed that chance or something.
Yeah, it was.
So and it was a game in which, you know, we were in it, you know, like, you know, he just needed to score. But in terms of Tanganga's performance, I think even though we lost, it gave him confidence, and, you know, people were calling for him to be in the starting lineup. You can have a similar thing with, you know, Dorrington or Donnelly, this lineup. The truth be told is the difference with the Tanganga situation and say, you know, these new youngsters coming up is people have been keeping an eye on these youngsters. Like, people have been ranting and raving about these youngsters. So it's not like, oh, Tanganga, we didn't know much about him. Nobody was really ranting and raving about him. So throwing him in, you know, was like it's kind of a win-win situation, really. Like, it's like you get what you get. With these kids, they're coming in with kind of like people saying, yeah, I've got stocks in them already. So you're going to want them to have a good performance. The fans are going to want them to have a good performance. They might even egg them on even more to perform better just because this is their first chance, you know, in the first team. Fling them childs in. Like, let them play. Why? Because, bruv, the alternative, those seasoned professionals that we're talking about as the alternative are not seasoned. The season guy is expired, bruv. You bought it in 2029. The expiry date was 2022. We are in 2023. We're a month away from 2024. The bag has been expired for a whole year. Why is it still here? We don't need this. You know what I'm saying? So, like, if man are gonna give me the option of even Lo Celso, I'll give Lo Celso a black. I'll actually give him a black, because Lo Celso's career at Spurs has been a madness where he came in. Nobody really thought anything special about. Hey, I'm not gonna lie. Like nobody thought anything great. He had like injuries, struggled, injuries. Then he had like a small run of form where, you know, people were like, oh yeah, he's doing decent, blah blah blah. He might be like possibly our best midfielder. All of that nonsense. Got injured, got signed, and then gave us absolutely nothing since. Yeah? Absolutely nothing since.
Crap,
but
bro.
Like, because of all the injuries and stuff like that, like, all right, cool. When has he had a run? Højbjerg, on the other hand, has had 2 years and he has given us nothing.
What does that tell you? What does that tell you? What does that tell you? Højbjerg has been able to. What does that tell you? what does that tell you? Fam, Skip has been given life in this team, right? Ndombele has had minutes. Sarr has had minutes. Benton
Skip hasn't been given life in this team.
No, I'm talking about Spurs in general over the last couple of years, not in this current team.
Not really. Skip's best run, yeah. When Conte first came in, Skip was probably his most like I'd say outside of the big names, yeah. Skip was actually like a respectable name in terms of like robust, nothing, no frills, 6 out of 10 performance, but it was ticking over. Then Skip got injured, and that was it. He got injured, and that was it. There was no recovery.
But the point I was making is even Nuno played Skip, right? The problem with someone like Lo Celso, even though I agree with you that he should play, the problem with Lo Celso is not only is he crap, like utter garbage when he plays for Spurs in 80% of these matches, right? Unless we're playing scrubs from Macedonia and Luxembourg or some shit like that. And even those teams, when we play this guy away from home against those teams, he still stinks, right? The problem is with Lo Celso is he can't stay fit. So you are crap and you can't stay fit. So even if he does play well, even if he does play well the next 2 games, having him as the option between now and the new year is problematic for Spurs because let's be real, there is a high chance this guy's going to pick up an injury.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Anyway,
Absolutely.
We don't need to speak on this anymore. Like Lo Celso is going to play. We know what the midfield's going to be. We just got to hope that he does the job for Spurs, and we got to let Ange sort of like rest on his laurels, man. Like this is who you picked. This is who you picked, right? You said that you wanted to play him, so now you got to play him in it. Let's move on. Let's go to the defense, right? Let's speak on the defense.
Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
The defense is. The defense is worse. How can the defensive issues be worse than the midfield?
I can tell you how. His name is Garbage Eric Dyer. Yeah, or as I like to call him, Diabolical.
Is that his full name? Eric. Let me Google his name. One sec. Sorry.
Go check it. Yeah. Or as some people have called him, the man that has yet to find justice for his brother. Because this is a fascio. Listen, I need everybody that is integrated into Spurs. Every single Daniel Levy, from even Joe Johnson, all the way down. Yeah, I need everybody to understand and hear me good. I've been a Spurs fan all my life. There are some players that I've seen that have absolutely embarrassed me and insulted my livelihood. Stefan Freund is one of them, and also Gilberto is another one. But we'll get into that in another day. But Eric Dyer has insulted the adult years of my life in ways that I never thought it could happen. What Eric Dyer has done to this club, yeah, is egregious beyond belief. Let me go back to the Wolves game. Brother, 6 minutes of concentration is all we needed. 6 minutes. You were concentrating for 90 minutes. 6 minutes of death is all we bloody needed. Your brother wasn't in the stadium. There was no need for you to have a head loss. Tell me why you decided to leave your post to go and deliver rotten milk to nobody. You didn't even foul anybody. It's nonsense. Listen to me and listen to me good. For the next
we lose that game as well. I swear we lost that game.
We lost the game, bruv.
Yeah, it was a cup game.
Bruv, forget even that. Yeah, like, bruv, listen. That's not the first time he's done that, by the way. There's a compilation on Twitter. If I find it, I'll put it in the group. There's a compilation of man literally watches the ball go past him. Man, what's that? Is that the football? Oh, yeah, it's just gone past me. Yeah. You're a defender! Defend, bruv! Like, I don't understand this. Listen, Destiny returns.
Yeah.
And by title alone, it sounds fantastic. Because I hope that the Destiny it befalls upon us and helps us through this time of life. Yeah, because we are struggling. You mean to tell me we're going to have a back line of Davis and Dyer? And Dyer is the senior and he can't even lead the line.
Let me float something past you, right? Because we know Destiny and Porro are going to play, which is good. So when these guys invert, at least from a ball progression perspective, we'll be much better because Destiny can sort of dribble with it, progress it with his passes. So that was something that we really struggled with against Wolves, progressing the ball from the first phase into the second phase into the third phase.
It was a myth.
Right? But the centre-back situation is still problematic, right? Ben Davies, by all accounts, had a good game. He had a good game against Wolves, but
Yeah, I wasn't vexed with Davis at all.
he had a good game against Wolves, and I think, to be fair to him, he's played in the back four for Spurs, maybe a handful of times, but when he's played in the back four for Spurs, he hasn't really put a foot wrong. But I still am nervous about Ben Davies. But Ben Davies, I feel like right now we probably have to play him. The question I'm going to ask you is, I found his name. His name is Eric Jeremy Edgar Dyer. With Jeremy Edgar, would you start him against Aston Villa, knowing they've got pace in Diaby and Watkins and power? Or, now, hear me out. Would you, because I was discussing this in another group chat, would you put Emerson at right side?
No. I knew you were going to say that.
It's a question. It's a question.
I knew you were going to say that.
Think about it. Let me lay it out for you. One of the two can defend better in isolation. One of the two is stronger. I actually think he's strong. Emerson, as Eric Dyer is big for nothing, and I feel like number three, one of the two can actually defend. I can't believe I'm having to choose between Dyer and Emerson. I don't like both of these guys.
So I'm going to say this one.
I have to choose between Edgar and Emerson.
On the defensive aspect, I can see that. But remember, we play a system in which we're not sitting back and defending. We're playing a very high line. We're playing like high risk football. Like Emerson with the ball to feet is frightening. Like,
say that again.
Say that again. Emerson with the ball to feet is frightening. Like, it's just fact. Then. But
you listen inside. Yeah.
But the truth be told, I know why we've got to this point. It's not because Dyer is that garbage and Emerson can take his spot. It's because Emerson can actually defend. But we play a style in which we need our centre back, right or left, to be capable of breaking lines with their passes.
Mm-hmm.
And neither Davis or Emerson have that as their strong suit. And Dyer doesn't either. I don't want anybody to turn around and say he does. So the problem I have with it, is you go with that system, you're really relying a lot on your fullbacks to kind of bail out the centre backs. Can it work? Can it work? Maybe. In theory, yes, it could. But I'll be honest with you. If I have to have Emerson as right centre back, just so that Dyer is not just getting absolutely pammed, by PMP, so be it. Like, I'll take it all day, bro. All day. It's not even up for debate.
Our man deep in that Ollie Watkins is one of the most. He is, that Chelsea. There was that Chelsea coach who got done for racial abuse. He said he used to have a nickname for black people, BBQ. Yeah, he said BB. He said big, black and quick. Yeah, God forgive me. But all I can think with Ollie Watkins is, this guy is powerful. And
he's gonna have a feast up.
And he's fast. I'm just gonna. All I can see is just a BBQ steam train just running rings around Eric Dyer, bro.
Oh man, I'm so shook. Like, I'm shook. I'm shook because, like, the thing is though, is that, like, I can see the benefit. I can see the benefit. I can actually see the benefit of playing Emerson. But I just don't think Emerson is actually that switched on. I just don't think he's that switched on. And I also don't think as well.
I'm trying to listen, but the BBQ's killed me. Oh my God. That is so racist.
It's so racist.
How do you say big, black, and quick? That is wrong on all levels. On every single level. There's nothing right about it. That is wrong on all levels, man. Oh my God. Where's Ofcom when you need them? Flipping hell.
Sorry, Thomas, you were saying, go on.
Yeah, I just don't think he's switched on enough to be a centre back. I feel like
he's more switched on than Dyer.
I feel like the only way that I think that we can, first of all, protect ourselves from a defensive structure perspective is we have to start immediately 5 or 10 yards. I'm not sure what they're going to do as they all return from training, from the international break, but I imagine, and I actually would hope that this week, having seen the way Wolves attacked us, a couple weekends ago, that maybe he has to somewhat edit or sort of manipulate our defense so that we start maybe 5 or 10 yards a little deeper, so that we always don't feel that like we're on the back foot. I think as well, having Porro and Udogi absolutely helps us in terms of our defensive structure, because they're guys that have been playing there more often, and they can probably support those two guys a bit. Maybe even the role that Højbjerg has to play has to kind of be manipulated or has to be tempered to the position whereby he actually has an active defensive role in protecting those central runs through the middle of the park onto those two centre backs, because like we've accepted that chances will be given up, possession will be given up, if we play in the proposed way that we wish to play. However, I still feel that if that's going to be the case against a team like Villa, who are extremely quick, who are extremely dynamic, who love the kind of football that they want to play in transition with the kind of players that they have, it will be very difficult. And I don't want to say naive, because I think naive is probably the wrong word, but it would be it would be inappropriate of us to try and definitely play the way that Ange wants to play, especially with these two specifically as personnel in that centre back position.
I think he's
He
going to have to.
He has to definitely.
He maybe tweak a couple things, maybe like some instructions, maybe a bit not as high as we have played. Maybe drop it, maybe like a couple yards deeper. But I feel like the whole emphasis of his game is to try and pen teams in, right? So
yeah,
I'm not going to lie, I don't really want him to deviate from how he's been playing recently. I just want him to pick the players that I feel can pick the players that, not even just I feel, pick the players that can execute as best to what it is you're trying to do in the absence of the big hitters, right? And that's why I mentioned Emerson, because Emerson, for all his nasty ball progression outside of the first phase, can defend, right? And I feel like where we're going to be playing so high, you need someone who has enough pace and strength to defend on an island. That's literally it for me. Like that is the only reason why it's in my head now, because I just worry. I just feel like Eric Dyer, like he's gonna be easy picking for most centre backs. Like I actually have more. It's mad. I have more less reservation on Ben Davies at centre back, and Davies is the one that's like, we don't even know who's the sweeper out of the two. Like, obviously, when Eric Dyer played on the Conte, he was doing that thing for a point where he would engage into midfield. So I guess he might be the one that will engage. But because we were pinned back so much against Wolves, he's not actually seen that defense high up to understand who's going to be the one that's going to sweep, who's going to be the one that's going to progress. So this is going to be an interesting game for us, where it's like, we're expected to dominate more of the ball because we're at home, even though we did dominate the ball away from Aston Villa, away at Wolves, but not really progress it. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. It's definitely going to be interesting. I don't know. I think for this period, we just have to accept that defensively, we're not going to be anywhere near as good as we've been so far this season. We're just going to have to hold that and just hope that the overarching tactic vis-a-vis the midfield composition, the pressing, the front line, we're just going to have to hope that does the job required. And to Yao's point earlier on, I actually feel sorry for Papi Matasar, because that boy is going to have to get through dog work like he's never worked before, man. He's going to have Dyer behind him, Højbjerg next to him, Lo Celso in front of him. Like, he's going to have to work. You know, what's that film, Coach Carter, when he was doing the suicide drills, right? That is the type of graft that this young boy is going to have to put in. That's you know, when he's trying to wake up, that's the amount of graft that this young boy is going to have to put in, and we just have to hope and pray. But let's actually move on to Aston Villa now. Right? Let's talk about the opposition. Because they set up in a 4-4-2. So I was doing some quick research, highlights this morning.
Yep.
of the game last season. And
Oh
season,
man, what at home? Yeah, where
at
Lloris
home,
sold us. Yeah,
it was
yeah.
awful. It was
All right,
way
all right. That defense and Lloris. Yeah. All right, all right, all right.
it was a stinker. Like
All
that game,
right.
I remember coming out of that game saying, "Yeah, Conte is done, isn't he?" And just 4 points, just 4 points in that game. So Aston Villa, they set up in a 4-4-2 last season, which they will do again this season.
Yeah.
Very, very deep and compact block, which we struggled to break down. There was a point where we were trying to attack. I think it was Perisic in the second half that flashed a shot wide. Aston Villa, no word of a lie, they had 9 players on the edge of their box. 9 players on the edge of their box, 2 players slightly ahead. Bro, they are going to make it so difficult for Spurs. And then, of course, the third point, Lloris. We had Lloris back then, and he literally
What a drunk idiot. Drunk idiot.
And then the fourth point, which we've already mentioned, was the counter-attack. The counter-attack was on for them constantly, all game long. It was just a case of them actually being incisive with their counters. And when they got it right, boy, did they get it right. So, guys, please.
That was my last game in the stadium. Or one of my last games. I left not long after the second goal.
Do you know what was crazy as well? Is that like I was watching back some of the highlights and I was reading some of the reports from that Villa game at home, and I was like, wait a second, what was it like when we went away? We got blamed just as badly away from home as well.
Did we not score first in that game as well?
Yeah, we did, and then it was a Ramsey and Bailey completely fried us in that second match. But when I say that it was an onslaught, so what's difficult for me as well to understand at the moment is that this iteration of Emery's team is a very positive one. They've finally been able to back him, and actually they have pushed on from what they were doing last season. And what really does give them a point whereby I'm like, okay, I think Emery's doing the right thing, is that they're going into games knowing that they are confident that they're going to be able to score. They're creating a large enough number of chances, and they're getting themselves in areas where they can constantly impact the game. Albeit at home, they've been way much stronger than they have been away from home. But even away from home, they've got some really, really positive results. They lost to Liverpool, lost to Newcastle, but they've also beaten Chelsea away. They got a point away from Brighton as well. And I imagine they're going to be coming into London off the back of that Wolves game, and I think they're going to be smelling blood. I think it's going to be a very tense game. I liked something Dr. Mike said on one of the main pods recently, is that sometimes you need to be a team, especially if you're a big team, you need to know how to suffer well. And you don't have to actually perform well. You don't actually have to be excellent throughout the game. And if it means you have to eat a little bit of shit, then eat a little bit of shit. But if you can somehow come away with a result to kind of batten down the hatches, to just temper the nerves, that is really what we need this coming Sunday against Villa.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's going to be difficult, man. It's gonna be difficult. I'm still going to back us to win, but it's going to be a really, really difficult task, man. Just some positive omens for us though this season. Every single game we've played off the back of an international break this season has, 1, been at home, and 2, we have won. Right? So let's take some heart in that. And I did note down some strengths as well. I would like to think that we are a much more creative side than we were last season. And I do feel like, even though Maddison is a big component of that, I do think that this team has been able to find multiple ways of scoring with or without Maddison's input. So I think we can sort of rely on some of these things to sort of get us through the next couple of weeks. And then also on the flip side, where we have a goalkeeper who was clearly at the end of his career last season and was just drunk the whole season, we have Vicario, who's actually been brilliant. He's been brilliant, and I feel like it's times like this where you can rest knowing that you've got a goalkeeper who's not only going to avoid doing dumb shit, right, but he's also going to potentially be the difference between Spurs losing and winning a game of football, because I feel like he will be big in terms of saving some some good opportunities that Aston Villa may create in the game, right? And then the last point I noted was around our attack, man. Our attack has been multifaceted this season. We've had a lot of people chipping with goals, so I don't think we're even though Son has scored a lot, right? Brennan Johnson got off the mark last week. Kulusevski's got a couple. Sarr has scored. Pedro Porro yet to score, but he's got a goal in him as well. I feel like even Lo Celso, as poor as he is, playing in that position, maybe you might give us a little something. I feel like we still have enough to cause Aston Villa problems. And when I've seen them play away from home this season against the better teams, so I've watched them against Liverpool, and they got smoked by Liverpool for the most.
They did.
They got
They
smoked.
did.
They were still dangerous on the counter attack, and obviously Liverpool are a different proposition to Spurs, but they got smoked. And I feel like with Aston Villa, I don't think Unai Emery is going to open up completely. I think they're still going to try and keep the game reserved. But I do think now, if we have a lot more of the ball than we did, if we have a lot more of the ball this season in comparison to last season, I think we can do more with it this season than we would have done last season, and we can open up the defense, man. What do you think? Yao, Tops?
I think it's going to be a score draw for me personally. I think it's a tough ask because although Destiny's coming back, which is great, we needed him to return. That centre-back partnership, and it's funny enough, it's not Davis that I'm actually worried about. It's whoever he's partnered with. Is frightening. You know, like it's just scary. And to be fair, it's like it's the system we play. It doesn't allow us to be cute in a sense of like, you know, having these players still play high line and not get exposed, as we saw against the Chelsea in the Chelsea game. So there's not a lot of confidence. If we had that centre-back partnership and say our starting midfield, I wouldn't be so worried because, you know, I'd trust in Basuma to be press resistant. I'd trust in Maddison to create chances. And I feel we would have enough firepower to get the job done. But any midfield that has, you know, Tobias' favourite in it is a complete and utter write-off. And so, you know, I don't know where we're going to go from here.
He ain't my favourite.
I'm going to go score draw. He is your favourite.
He's not my favourite.
Don't sit here and deny him now. Yeah, that's
well, he's my Viking, but he's not my favourite.
He's your favourite. and the fact that you even call him your Viking has me worried. Yeah?
You ain't lie, man. You ain't lie.
Tops, I guess, yeah, you basically kicked off match predictions for us anyway with a 2-2 score draw. Tops, what are you going for, man? What do you reckon the score is going to be?
Villa are going to be a difficult game.
Very.
It's going to be a difficult game. I think if we score early, we nick it 2-1. I think we nick it 2-1. If they score first, and that could dampen the mood, and they could build confidence. It's a difficult game this weekend. Villa at home. I think we win 2-1. It's going to be tight. It's going to be a cagey affair. It's not going to be fun, but I feel like just so we can get some sort of control again of our sort of feeling around the club, our destiny at the moment, just with all these injuries and everything, I feel that it's important for us to get a result. And then if we go into the Man City game, what will be what will be. But it's very important, in my opinion, of all these games that we get a result against Villa.
Yeah, man. I'm gonna go for a 2-1 win as well. I'm gonna go for a 2-1 win. To be honest, even if we don't win the game, like I don't know why, but I'm just not. You know me, I'm a panicker. Like in the game, I'll probably panic, but just away from the games, even if we don't win this game, I'm really not panicking about Spurs' situation right now because I know what's coming back. Do you get what I'm saying? I know what's coming back, and I actually feel like, and I've said this before, I feel like when I look at where we are on the table, Chelsea, who are on the up, were 10 points ahead of Chelsea. Newcastle were 5 or 6 points ahead of Newcastle, who are injury ravaged as well. Do you get what I'm saying? Aston Villa, to be fair, Aston Villa are the ones that are breathing directly like behind our necks, right? They're the ones behind us waiting to try and take the spot, and maybe they might, but I don't think Aston Villa are going to build up such an insurmountable gap between now and New Year's that we can't recover. So let's see, man. Bring it on, man. I'm going to go for a 2-1 win. Lads, I think we're going to call it a day here. I don't suppose any of you guys are going to be at the game on the weekend.
Nope, I'm not trying to be out during the winter. I've got bare things to do, but I will be on the main pod.
Yeah. Man came back from his trip to Mexico, and now he's indoors for the foreseeable future, man. Whatever.
First and foremost, for legal reasons, I cannot talk about my trip to Mexico.
Shut up, man.
Yes.
Man.
Yeah.
All right, listen, lads. Yao, aka Scott Hall, Tops, aka Booker T, it's been a pleasure. For those who are still watching or listening, make sure you follow us across all socials, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, one word, New Spurs, although we're putting out some cool stuff on there. Make sure you check out Scott's Staircase, Yao's weekly segment where he details who's at the top of the stairs, who's at the bottom of the stairs, amongst other things as well. We got some comps, we got some cool content coming out of all of our platforms. So make sure you check it out as well. And yeah, man, we'll be releasing some Patreons as well. So stay locked in, enjoy your weekends, and bless up.
Peace.